video a little bit before I'm actually ready, just because that's the only way I'll actually get these things done. I've been listening to a podcast. I'm only 10 minutes into it. It's a podcast with Lex Fridman and Elon Musk, and they're talking about neural. And each time I hear Elon talk about something like Neuralink or technology, I keep thinking we're going to get to a point where he, I guess, gets it in a way that I'm comfortable with, that I'm happy with. And I keep hearing him say things that suggest that that's not happening, and that the course that we are going on is going to be, if it's dictated by him and people like him, then it's not going to be a good course. And one of the questions that Lex asks him is, what's the value of humanity once we get to this point of having, really advanced technology? And his response is, well, we'll be a source of will. We'll be a source of will. Let me fix my camera real quick. All right. In other words, what he's saying, well, I don't want to say everything. I want you to be able to feel what that feels like. When someone says about you that your only value left is a source of will. That not only does he say that humans' only value is their source of will, he says the limbic system inside of us will act as a source of will that will dictate how technology is used and what we get it to do, just like we get our arms and legs to move through our willpower. That's how we will get other things to move and to affect the world around us. How does that make you feel? Just on a gut level. Just getting out of your head and what that necessarily means and all the implications. What does it feel like to you? Can you hear that? That's my gut responding to being called a source of will. That is so, to me, reductive. That is so dehumanizing. Basically, what I'm hearing when I hear people like Elon talk about AI, and maybe even Lex, I don't really know his content as well, but technologists and intellectualists, when I hear them talk about the human condition, what humans are, and our future, what I hear is them taking this whole vast human experience and value and identity and cutting out 95, 99% of it and saying, you're only this little sliver. That's all that I'm letting be left of you. That's all I will refer to you as, is the tiniest sliver of who you truly are. There is no hope for humanity when people like this make decisions for us, unless they have a change of heart, unless they get in touch with their hearts. So much of the conversation I've heard in just the first 10 minutes is something that I talked about in my Twitter podcasts about the dehumanization of humanity through the discussion of human beings in digital terms, such as computing power and information sharing and well, what we basically do as humans is that we form these concepts and then we put them into and I can't remember the exact language. Let me see if I can just find. No, still going? Fantastic. Paused. Oh, all right. So we're back. This idea that we compress data into language, and then we share that data through compressed language, and then when that data reaches another person through conversation, that they have to decompress that data, and we hope that they decompress it correctly so that the concepts that are in our minds are the concepts that are in their minds in the end. This is such a dehumanizing view. And I understand that it might be intellectually effective, an intellectually effective way to talk about communication. But only the tiniest sliver of communication that is data sharing through language. This says nothing about the experience of being with somebody or having a conversation. All of the richness of interaction, all of the meaningfulness, the colorful, the flavor is all gone when you talk about humans as data sharing machines that are compressing and decompressing information, hopefully correctly, but at such a slow pace that we have to speed this up. And once we speed it up, you'll never want to go back. Ugh. It's so gross. It's so gross. And if you think if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think I'm reading too much into this, there's a point where Elon and Lex start talking about sex. And it's just, it's a tangent. It's not a big deal. But the way Elon talks about sex is that at one point it was for procreation and now it's for recreation. And I understand it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek the way that he talks about it. But the concepts that he has, still, it's recreational. Sex is now a recreational device or experience. In his mind, it seems that there's only two options because of the way that he views humanity. It's either procreation or recreation. What about connection? What about sharing? I mean, I don't have to explain to you how much of a reduction of the sexual experience it is to talk about it as procreation or recreation. What do you doing? You want to go to see a movie or you want to have sex? I mean, what? That's it? And this is indicative of his view of humanity. This is indicative of what I think is his level of connection to the other parts of himself that are not the intellect. Here's something else that I think is really important. When you have somebody who is very stuck in their head, in other words, not attached to the rest of themselves, not having the fullness of a human experience, they're highly cerebral. That can be mistaken for high intelligence. Because the experience that we have with that person is that this person's living in their heads or in some sort of abstract reality that is cerebral and imaginative, and it's all this brain space stuff going on. And there's an assumption that we make when we experience somebody like that they are highly intelligent and that we should listen to them about intellectual things. We don't make the assumption we should make, which is that this person is compartmentalized and damaged. This person does not have access to the parts of themselves that should be making the bigger decisions. They've lost connection with their CEO, and they're only in connection with their COO. And the part of themselves that should have the vision for life and understand how to get the mechanism of their mind involved in accomplishing a positive human goal, that's not there anymore. And I understand that I'm critiquing them for talking about the human experience in terms of data and information and computation and digitization, while I'm talking about it in the experience of consumerism with CEOs and COOs and stuff like that. But I'm not. You understand? I'm just using that as a small example. I don't actually think that that's the fullness of the human experience. So Elon might be very smart. I don't know, and I can't tell. But what he does be is very cerebral. And that scares me. It shouldn't scare me. Does it scare me? When I'm not occupying my fullness, then I'm scared. At the end of the day, big picture, it's just what's happening. And I would like to keep it from happening because, long story, if you've watched my other stuff, then you know what I think is coming through this. I think all of this technology and all of this digitization of things is a counterfeit for the lack of aspects, the aspects that we've lost within ourselves and the dimensions outside of ourselves that we no longer occupy. And so I believe that this is going to take us further into a fall. I don't want to see humanity put behind another 100,000 years. I don't want to see us fall into another space that we have to climb up out of over time. I don't want to see us leaving another garden and taking this deal with the devil that always starts with a diminishment of identity. See, what I hear when I hear Elon and Lex talking about the human experience, Neuralink, and sex, what I hear is identity abuse. And to me, that is the greatest abuse that can possibly happen, is the abuse of one's identity. Sometimes we call it emotional abuse. Sometimes we call it, I don't know, intellectual abuse, psychological abuse, and things like that. But a lot of times what we're talking about is the attempt of another person to disidentify, de-identify us, to reduce our identity to being less than it fully is. And that is the most damaging thing that I can possibly think of happening to a person. And so when these intellectuals commit what I consider identity abuse, and we put up with that shit, I have a huge problem with that. Because what comes next is the deal with the devil. First, the devil shows up and says, "You're not much. You're not much. So these other things that you're not, why don't I just go ahead and take those? You're really pretty much just a source of will. Your body's not really that valuable. Your mind isn't that valuable. There's really not much left of you except the decider. Somehow you make decisions. So since you're really just the decider, you really don't need these other aspects of yourself, and you don't need these other dimensions that those aspects occupy. So I'm going to go ahead and take those to make you a decision-making god." Ooh, doesn't this sound nice? That's all you are, is a decider. So I'll take these other useless aspects and dimensions, and I'll fill that with what, we don't talk about that. That's just to be determined. Let's just say that's to be determined what I'm going to do with those. It won't really matter because they're useless. But you're going to be a god in the decision-making world. You're going to be able to transfer bits and data so fast. You're going to be shocked at how many decisions you can make in a given moment. Ooh, wow. Look at you go. Aren't you making progress? You beautiful human being shooting for the stars, and all that's left of you is the ghost of a shadow of your humanity, which is the decider. What a disgusting offer. What a sickening concept, and just like imagining that I'm having right now. That is so sick. That is so unacceptable. And that's what we are. That's what someone wants to claim we are before they put nodes and links into our heads so that we can decide and disseminate information faster. I don't want anything to do with this shit. And I hope you feel the same way. I hope you see value in yourself that goes far beyond the presumptions and sometimes the explicit statements that these technologists and intellectuals like to make about you. They're lying. Intentionally or not, it doesn't matter. These people are traumatized. They are damaged. I'm already operating in a fraction of my available to me. I don't need to be reduced even more by somebody who went through some serious trauma and child abuse when they were kids and had that affect and form their vision of the world, of themselves. I don't need to take my cues about who I am from people who are even more compartmentalized than I am, who are more damaged than I am, and who are promoting the fall of humanity into even lesser and lesser corners of the realm that we were meant to occupy. Let's just stop there. There's more, even in the first 10 minutes. If you know what to listen for, it's there. All right. Have a good day.